Call this meeting of Lima City Council to order. We'll begin tonight's meeting with the invocation by Councilor McLean, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, as we're gathered here today to be servants of your will to do the right thing for our community as we vote on our current issues. Bless each and every one of our counselors in the administration as we fulfill the needs of our city. We pray for the sinners that they see light and enjoy your abundance. We pray for the hungry are fed and needy to be clothed. We pray for our community to prosper and that we have peace in our world. We pray for the men and women who fight for our freedom and wish them a safe and happy return to their families. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. Gordon?
Here.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
Mr. Lowe?
Here.
Ms. Krager?
Here.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Mr. Glenn?
Here.
Mrs. Miles?
Here.
And Mr. Nixon.
Here. First on the agenda this evening is Resolution 416.
Congratulating the Lima Senior High School Boys Varsity Basketball Team for winning the OHSAA Division I State Runner-Up.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that resolution number 0416 be adopted on its first reading after having been read.
Second.
The motion and the second is to adopt Resolution 416 on its first reading after having been read. We'll have the clerk read the resolution.
Whereas the Lima Senior Spartans Boys Varsity Basketball Team finished their regular season with a perfect 22-0 record and winning the Three Rivers Athletic Conference Basketball Championship in Division I. And whereas the Lima Senior Spartans went on to win the sectional final, district championship, and regional championship, advancing to the Final Four in the OHSAA Division I, where they won the semifinal against Wilmington and advanced to the state final for only the second time in the school history and were just seconds short of the championship. And whereas with a 29-1 record overall, the Lima Senior Spartans have the distinction of 29 wins being the most wins in the school and Lima history. This accomplishment represents the elements of discipline, dedication, determination, and teamwork represented in all championship teams. And whereas it is the opinion of the Lima City Council that the efforts and success of the Lima Senior High School Spartans basketball team should not go unrecognized. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Lima, Ohio, that the Lima City Council, on behalf of the entire community, congratulate the Lima Senior High School Boys Varsity Basketball Team and Coach Quincy Simpson for their outstanding season and for the honor and recognition they have brought to the Lima community, and that the Lima City Council wish to recognize and congratulate Coach Quincy Simpson for being named Coach of the Year and Xavier Simpson for being named Ohio Mr. Basketball, and that the clerk is authorized and directed upon adoption of this resolution to provide a copy to Lima Senior High School.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lowe?
I would like to congratulate Lima Senior High Spartans. About 2 years ago, I put a post on Facebook, and I know Q knows what I'm talking about, and people kind of badgered me for it, but I was right. And I said, if you put this man in a position, he's going to turn this team around, this school around, bring some pride back, and he did just that. So to Quincy, I salute you, man. You did your thing, and I appreciate it. To the team, you brought so much joy to this city. I don't think there was a head that sat in my chair that didn't want to talk about Lima Senior Spartans. So you were the talk for actually for the last season, the whole couple, every day someone said something about the Spartan. I was very, very happy and jubilant about you guys. Keep your heads up, continue to smile, persevere, and press forward. Always continue to put God first. You'll never fail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn?
I just got a couple things there. Well, Quincy, Coach Q, and the boys, you guys did an excellent job. And I had an opportunity to meet you guys when we was working volunteer at the Thanksgiving McDonald's, Jerry Lewis Thanksgiving dinner. And a couple people from Bluffton told me you got some well-respected young men there. Everywhere you tour them around, you hear good things about them. And I know we got something going to. We got one Michigan, we got the Ball States, and we got all that. We got Pittsburgh. I mean, it's just exciting to see this in our city. you know, and then, you know, I can go down to Central State and say, hey, we got one at Pittsburgh, we got one in Michigan, we got one at Ball State. You know, it's just exciting. But you did a good job. It showed how you was there, like Councilman Lowe said. You showed that you speak loud and clear, how you trained the guys and kept them guys up to spirit. I know it was tough, guys, but you guys did tremendously. You had our whole city jumping. You and LCC, we never had a city like that before, with two teams together going down to Columbus. So they well know us now. So we're going to go down there next year again. I know Coach Q ready to roll. He got a good plan there. And you guys keep your heads up. You guys did an excellent job. And God bless each one of you guys when y'all go to y'all second career, college. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Gordon?
Quincy, my old friend Quincy and team, I'll tell you what, you guys done something amazing. Something so amazing to this community, how you brought this community together. I mean, it goes way beyond basketball. And I understand, because I've known your coach for a long time, the work that you guys have been putting in to the game of basketball for years. I understand what you guys put into it. And I'll tell you what, I can't be more proud just to be talking to you right now. So I want to tell you guys thanks for what you did on the basketball court, and I want to tell you thanks for what you did for this community. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles?
Lima Senior High basketball team, Coach Quincy, I just really want to say how proud I am of all of you. As a former school board member and having such a pride for our school, you guys really exemplified excellence as far as character, how you carried yourself, and again, it was a great ride. And I really appreciate the memories that you gave to our young people. I mean, there were so many times when the kids were all they could talk about was Lima Senior High basketball. And a lot of the kids had the opportunity to go to a lot of the games here. And I don't know if I can say fortunate, but my husband and I was chaperoning two of the school bus rides. Only thing I can say about that, it was memorable. But I would say it gave kids that would not ordinarily have an opportunity to go and see colleges and to be able to go and see those games. To give them opportunity, I was really glad that the athletic department decided to provide buses. It was a great opportunity. I want to spend just a few minutes giving some words of wisdom, not as a counselor from a councilwoman, but as a mother. Two things here. Especially for those who are going away to college, going away into service or wherever they're going, but it could apply to the rest of you too. The first thing is, do not be wise in your own eyes. Do not think that at your age that you know everything. You are surrounded with a lot of coaches, teachers, mentors that really want the best for you. And when you get into a situation as you go away and start doing life away from home, don't be afraid to ask others for advice and to not only ask for their advice, but to follow their advice. You may think you know everything. I remember I have boys, I have sons, so I knew how they felt. They thought they knew everything at age 17 and 18. But they soon, 10 years later, came back and said, hey, Mom, hey, how about some advice? Now, you were right, And so, again, do not be wise in your eyes. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. Secondly is, and coincidentally, this is what Quincy had on his Facebook page today, it said, don't be so quick to quit. When things don't go your way, when things get difficulty, when someone makes you mad, don't quit. It's easy to quit, but it's difficult to continue to hang in there and to do what you need to do to be successful. There are so many things that you're going to encounter when you go out into the world. And it's not going. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some roadblocks. There's going to be some stumblings that you may do, but get back up and try. And do not quit. Do not quit. If that school that you committed to is not the school that you want to go to, don't be afraid to transfer. But don't quit. Don't just, point blank quit school. And I just want to encourage you guys here. You've come a long ways. You've shown that you have what it takes to get to that next level. Now let's just continue that on to this next level. And remember, we're all behind you. You got a lot of people here that are dependent on you to go ahead and make that next step and be successful. And then, some of you guys will come back and show our young people what it takes to get to that next level. And so, may God bless each and every one of you. For those of you who are going off to college, be careful, be committed to excellence, and continue to ride on what you've already started here in Lima. And we wish the very best for you. For those who are coming back next year, hey, we're expecting the same thing again for next year. So don't think it's, that we're not expecting it. So we are. So again, Coach Quincy, thank you for all that you have done. Lima City High basketball players, thank you for being good students, for being good athletes, and most of all, thank you for being an asset to our community.
Thank you, Mrs. Miles. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. McLean?
I sat here and a lot of words come to my mind about how that you guys perform together. And that comes from a coach. A coach teaches you, but whenever you get that feeling inside you that you want to work together and you work together as a team, a lot of things can happen. And you showed us that. You showed our community that. And respectfully, because every time I watched you guys, you did it with respect of the other teams. You were not showboats. Everybody played together as a team, and that's what it's all about. So you brought ourselves out here in the community, you brought it yourself to the forefront, because all of the younger people underneath you remember this. And you'll remember this the rest of your life. You'll remember this. We got us there. We got us there. And as you get back together in the few years from now, after you come back from college and you're here on a weekend, you'll all get together and laugh and joke about this. But you know what? This is one of the best years of your life, and you'll remember it forever. But sit back and thank your coach and the people around you, because everybody loves you, man. Everybody took exception to everything that went on around them and came to your games and supported you, because you guys showed us the right way to do it. So be proud, be respectful, and I wish you the best of luck in whatever you do. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? I'll simply, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentlemen, really the one thing I'd like to echo amongst the other counselors, it's 3 things. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Whatever it is you're doing next, whether that's continue through high school, continue on to college, continue the service, find your path, don't quit. Set your goals and keep going, and tell yourself, I'm not gonna quit, I'm not gonna quit, I'm not gonna quit. It will pay off. Perseverance pays off every single time. I am an ambassador from Lima to the surrounding communities. And do you know how envious people are of you? Feels good. And I didn't do anything, right? So with all, I can say congratulations and just stay the course. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Most everything that can be said has been said, so I'm simply going to say congratulations and thank you for the spirit that you brought to this community, and congratulations again on your season. We will vote. I will have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
And Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Resolution 416 has been adopted on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Coach Simpson, I'll have you come forward and perhaps bring your team up and introduce them to all of us again. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for having us. Greatly appreciate it. Todd is a great friend of mine. We worked together for many years at the prison. And he was a guy that used to always ask me why was I working there instead of doing something that I love. Jesse and I got hired in at the prison together, and I remember him and I having discussions on some of the similar conversations. But to leave that field where you are in an environment to be able to deal with inmates and to go to an environment to change the dynamic of some of these kids' lives was something that I personally wanted to do. So I'm blessed with the opportunity to be here, to be around these guys, and even around my middle school kids. Thankful for what God has done for me. These guys, their parents have trusted me with them. We do a lot together. We do a lot off the floor together to kind of build the family foundation. So, Ms. Clemens, I appreciate, reaching out to me. I kind of dodged a lot of those calls because, it's tough, when time goes by and you still some of those memories come back of not being able to fulfill our goal. But, it's something that we have gotten over, I've gotten over. But, this is going to be a memory. This is a great group of young men, 7 seniors. Right now, 6 of them are all set to go to college for free. And the other guys, so, we're blessed. Again, we're blessed to be here. I'm ecstatic to be the coach of Lima Senior. These guys have set a great foundation. They set the bar high, for these 2 guys and this young man right here, these 2 guys in the back to come back next year, with the same expectations. So, again, we appreciate it. This is Jalen Thomas. He's going to be going to Ball State on a full-ride football scholarship, honor roll student. Marquise Coleman is a junior honor roll student. He'll be back. He'll have a great integral part next year. Jarius Ward, he's a junior, a high-level basketball player. Again, an honor roll student. Xavier Simpson is an honor roll student going to the University of Michigan. Ruben Flowers, honor roll student, going to Pittsburgh on a full-ride football scholarship. DeMonte Lyles is going to Trine University. And if you know DeMonte, he has come an extremely long way into the person that he is today. I think he may have a different future in comedy. But we just don't know. We just don't know just yet. Behind him is a sophomore, Brian Miller, again an honor roll student, he's going to be a big face of the program next year. Ernesto Martin is an honor roll student, a junior. He'll be back next year. Also a 2-sport football guy. Jaleel King is an honor roll student, a freshman who have a big piece in what we're doing going forward. And Titus Schutz, again, is an honor roll student. He's a great athlete in basketball and even better in cross country. So, bigger than sports, I have a lot of honor roll kids, and we set the bar high so these guys understand that they are a student first and they're athletes second. And they have adopted that mindset and been very creative in hitting the books. So I'm proud of them for that nature. Again, thanks for having us, and we definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. Returning to the agenda, the privilege of the floor. Lance Nim. You probably know this, but state your name and address for the record, and council rules allow for 3 minutes.
My name's Lance Mim. I'm from St. Mary's, 602 Columbia Street, and
I'm Paris Smith, originally from Lima, Ohio, but now I reside in Los Angeles, California.
as I'm sure most of you know, we had a story in several months ago when Paris joined a nationally known R&B band, and when we met, we kind of got to talk and we wanted to do something big in Lima. We've seen all the problems going on anyhow, and we got something thrown together we think should be real big, and we just want to let council know about it. We're planning on continuing this every year. So, and we want to keep the money local. This year it's going to the American Cancer Society, but it will serve locally. We're going to have an event, several national known artists on the 24th, an after party with some comedians.
Celebrity basketball game.
A celebrity basketball game at the Lyda Field House, and we wanted to have it in Lima, but the Field House was bigger, so that's why we moved it to the Field House. And before I turn it over to Paris here, let him kind of fill you in a little bit more about it. I've just done a lot of the behind the scenes book work and stuff like that with my paralegal degree. I knew kind of a lot of stuff that we needed to get done, but Paris here has done a lot of footwork to bring a pretty big event here to Lima, and we just want to get the council's support of it and let you know what's going on. And I'm gonna turn it over to Paris here.
Yeah, so I've been living in Los Angeles now for 13 years. I graduated at Elide in 1995. I left on a mission, to make my music career happen. And finally, through God's grace, I was blessed to be the newest member of Levert. Took the place of Gerald Levert, or Sean Levert. There was two of them that passed away really fast, so they had to find two guys, and they picked little old me from Lima, Ohio. So with that being said, it was always my dream to be able to bring something back to my city, and I've lost a lot of people in my family and close friends due to cancer, so I always wanted to come back and give back to cancer or sugar diabetes or whatever the cause that was needed, but being that cancer attacked my family, that's what I wanted it to be about. So I reached out to a few of my celebrity friends that I've met over the years, and they was like, hey, let me know what you need me to do, and I'll be there. So I've been flying back and forth to put this together, and I'm here now, and we've gotten a lot of it down. We're 90% there. Tickets went on sale today for the concert at the Civic Center. I just picked up the tickets for Elida, and there'll be an after party with a comedy show. I just wanted to bring something to our city that the big cities get that we've never really gotten.
Right.
So that's why I'm here, and we would love to have you guys' support in helping us get this out there. And even after this game is over and after the American Cancer Society, I know there's a lot of things going on in the city as far as things that would be great for the kids, as far as helping with maybe the Miss Paul out on 8th Street. Help fix that basketball court for the kids, give them some after-school programs and
Right.
stuff like that. So
I agree with you.
I definitely wanted to be able to come home and give back to Lima, because I feel like Lima is one of the cities that the big cities don't think about. But I'm from here, so now I have a voice. I'm going to say something.
Thank you.
So-
Great.
And I
That's
know
pretty much
you,
it.
and you guys know how to reach me. Like I said, we want to keep this money local. So if you, we set it for this year and next year, we're going to the American Diabetes Foundation. But you guys hear of anything worthy, we just want you to let us know, because we want to make this an annual event. We want it to go forever. So, and we've got, people lined up this year, people lined up, in the future, and
A lot of great verbal commitments. Like, I've built a great relationship with Floyd Mayweather, built a great relationship with Kevin Hart. I talk to these guys just about every time, what's going on? But it's like they're busy schedules, but if they're free, they will definitely be here in Lima to support what we have going on because of their love for me, which is a blessing. So,
What are the dates of the?
June 24th and
June
25th.
24th. Okay.
Tickets just went on sale today for the concert. The concert will be on the 24th, featuring Levert 2, Rough Ends, Static in the Groove, a reggae group from here, and Tyler Perry's Love Thy Neighbor star Tony Grant. He'll be here, and possibly Tyler Perry will make a little appearance because they told him he's very interested to come be a part of. These are the types of cities that he likes to come to, because he feels that these are the cities that the big cities don't think about, and that's the same thing I felt. So,
Wow, that's great.
Thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you.
Next, the consent calendar.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams,
I make a motion to receive, file, and approve item A.
Second.
the motion and the second is to receive, file, and approve item A. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Communication number 1.
From the Director of Community Development regarding legislation to place tax assessments.
Mr. President,
Ms. Craig.
I move that communication number 1 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 1. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 2.
From the Finance Director regarding legislation for budget amendments.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams,
I move that communication number 2 be received and filed. Legislation is on tonight's agenda.
Second.
the motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 2. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by signifying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 3.
From the Deputy Director of Public Works requesting legislation to hire 2 seasonal park rangers.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon,
I move that communication number 3 be received and filed, and the law director be authorized to prepare the necessary legislation for the
Second.
request.
Second.
the motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 3 and to authorize the law director to prepare the necessary legislation. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 4.
From the city engineer regarding legislation to enter into a contract with R.D. Jones Excavating.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that communication number 4 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 4. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 5.
From the city engineer regarding legislation to amend agreement with Indiana and Ohio Railroad.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that communication number 5 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 5. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 6.
From the city engineer regarding legislation to enter into a contract with United Survey, Inc.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon.
I move that communication number 6 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 6. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams.
if I could, I'd like to ask Mr. Elstro to explain this. I had a question for him earlier today, and it clarified it for me, and I hope for others and the public, that what they are addressing is strictly stormwater, and I was asking about combination sewers, and that's handled under utilities. And I was asking, I think there's 4 projects listed here and their locations, and going forward, what our hopes are, and if Mr. Elstro could expand on that.
Mr. President and council, the nature of Councilor Adams' question was, is this the beginning, or will this pretty much complete the necessary work? What's before you tonight is being funded from the Stormwater Fund, and these are sewers, storm sewers. They are not combined sewers, so it is only channeling stormwater through these, and therefore it will be paid out of the Stormwater Proprietary Fund. This is the first of probably many projects that we will see in the future. We are just in the infancy of trying to understand the quality of the stormwater system in our community. We were able to purchase a camera truck last year. We are in the process of televising various stormwater systems. These that we have before you, we know that by doing a lining project, we will get another 40, 50 years of service out of these storm lines if we can do this work now. How much more of our system needs this type of remediation, we are unsure of at this time. Probably over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, we will have the opportunity to televise all of the storm lines in Lima, and at that point, we will be able to give a definitive answer of how much more remedial work will be required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Communication number 7.
From Chief Martin regarding legislation to enter into an intergovernmental cooperative mutual aid agreement with the city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles?
I move that communication number 7 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 7. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Glenn?
yes, I'd like for Major to come up and explain to the public that this is not going to cost the city no money, and also our city will be safe. We send 7 police officers to Cleveland. Thank you.
Mr. President, the City of Cleveland reached out to many communities in the state of Ohio asking for assistance with the Republican National Convention, and Chief Martin agreed to help out. The way this is going to be funded is through a grant that the Cleveland Police Department has applied for and received. All personnel costs are going to be reimbursed to the City of Lima, which includes overtime and fringe benefits at 100%. So it's going to cost the City of Lima $0 to send up to 10 officers to assist with this Republican National Convention and making sure that everybody is safe and secure. All overtime above and beyond what they would work here is going to be reimbursed, fringe benefits, and their regular hourly salary. Even though we're going to send up to 10 people, it's not going to put the numbers of officers that we currently have on the street any lower than it is now. We're not going to sacrifice the safety of this community to go help another community. This is our number one priority, and that's the commitment we're obligated to. So at no time does any city resident have to worry about not having the police services that they deserve and what their tax dollars are paying for.
Thank you, Major. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 8.
From Chief Martin regarding legislation to apply for the 2017 Select Traffic Enforcement Program.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles,
I move that communication number 8 be received and filed.
Second.
the motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 8. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Communication number 9.
From Chief Martin regarding legislation to apply for the Drug Use Prevention 2016-2017 grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that communication number 9 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 9. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. And communication number 10.
From Chief Martin regarding legislation to apply for a Paul Coverdell grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that communication number 10 be received and filed.
Second.
The motion and the second is to receive and file communication number 10. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have reports of officials. Robert Viatal?
That's close enough.
Close enough? Okay, Ohio Assistant Attorney General regarding Safe Streets Initiative.
If you don't mind, I wanted to introduce Robert, even though he did not want to be introduced, because he's a very conservative person, but he's the Assistant Attorney General, and he likes to be called Bob Fiatal. And sometime last year, he reached out to the city of Lima about a initiative called the Safe Neighborhood Initiative. And he was offering to bring this program into our community. And the primary purpose of this program was to deter the gun violence in our community and keep tabs on individuals who are directly involved in gun violence and criminal offenses of serious natures. He's going to get more into that here later. Just a little bit of background on Mr. Fiatal. He is the Assistant Attorney General. He was a supervisor for BCI&I, then an FBI agent for Akron. He then moved to the Cleveland area where he was an FBI supervisor. He then moved to, well, did you move to London or?
No, I just during the week.
He is the executive director of the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy, and then he became the CFO of the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy, and now he is the Assistant Attorney General of the state of Ohio. When Mr. Fiatal reached out to us and talked about this program, the chief was very interested, and he also extended an offer for us to go to Akron, Ohio, where the program was currently being implemented, and he invited us to a call-in. I think a couple of you have been to the call-in here in Lima, Ohio. So the chief and Major Protzman at that time went to Akron, and they were very, very interested in this program and asked Bob to come and discuss it a little bit more. So he, after months of planning and arranging with other community members and police departments and courts, we finally got the program together, and so far it's doing what it's intended to do. And in this day and age, with all the shootings and all the gun violence that we have, I think Councilor Glenn has spoke about that in the past. This program is like right on time, and it's not solving all the problems immediately, but if we keep working at it and keep using the theories that he's going to talk about, it's going to have a major impact in the city of Lima, and with the community's help, it's going to be very effective. So, Bob, if you don't mind coming up.
Thank you, Major. Thanks for the kind introduction. Mr. President and Council, if I may, just as Major Cortez explained, I'm an assistant attorney general now, and as you can see probably by my resume, I've had a hard time keeping a job for the last 40 years, but I try my best. Mr. President, can I approach you?
You sure
And,
can.
I just want to
Certainly.
give you this. This is kind of a sample agenda of our group interventions that we regularly have with young men who unfortunately have been identified because of either their criminal history or their social networking, not only being at risk of committing violence, but also of being on the receiving end of violence as well. And this particular program, the Safe Neighborhoods Initiative, addresses one type of violence in particular, and that is, again, unfortunately, young men killing other young men with guns. It's not a problem that's unique to Lima. In fact, it's a problem that's shared by all communities, not only in Ohio, but almost across the country. And it's nothing that I dreamed up, but it's based upon a protocol that was developed by people a lot smarter than I am. And it's been applied throughout the country, which relies upon a basic premise. And that is, and I'm sure that you'll agree it's true in Lima, that most violent crime, no matter what the city, what the size of the community, is committed by a very small percentage of that particular community. Maybe 3% at the most. And if you can identify who those are likely to be, and this is pretty predictive, just by information, and shared information particularly, and have a group intervention with them, in which you provide them a common message from all kinds of members of your own community, why they have to help us, our city, stop the gun violence. And I've shared with you there basically the agenda that we've applied. We've actually done 3 of these group agendas for adults who've been identified. But about, as Major Cortez says, a little over a year ago, we also realized that both nationally, statewide, as well as Lima, gun violence is involving younger and younger people. And in fact, I think there was just a shooting, unfortunately, as Major Cortez referred to, just the other night, involved a 16-year-old victim. Thank goodness he survived, but he's never going to be the same. In fact, that is one of the things that we demonstrate to these individuals, and we construct this intervention about 1 hour and 15 minutes. We keep right on schedule, going to make it short. I mean, I'm 65, a male, and my attention span is still only this big. You can imagine when you're 18, 24. And essentially, again, it's information, but it's also a handout, and it convinces these young people that they are worth something. They're worthy of our investment, but we need them to join us and be contributing members of their community. And finally, as you'll see by the agenda, we bring in a presence of people right from the community that are there to express how much they love them. And that's basically handled in the city of Lima here, as you can see, by some really outstanding clergy people. Again, we've done this 6 separate times. Has it eliminated completely all gun violence in your city? No, it hasn't. But I think the police department, and I've discussed this with Chief Martin, has seen at least a very noticeable reduction. And again, it is very predictive. I know that just in the city of Lima, and Lima is one of 10 cities that we've deployed here in Ohio, Akron again being the first, we unfortunately have identified future victims, and we've also identified future shooters. In fact, we've addressed them with our intervention, and all we can do is hope that they do this. In fact, the intervention, as you'll see, is essentially speakers from law enforcement, and their message is basically informative. Guys, we don't want anybody hurt, we don't want anybody maimed, we don't want anybody dead, and the last thing any law enforcement officer or prosecutor wants to do is put somebody in prison and away from their family and loved ones for a significant period of time. But if they have to control gun violence, they have to fulfill their public duty. Our prosecutors at both the county level, as well as you can see the U.S. Attorney's Office from Toledo, deliver this message and basically tell these young men, well, if you're going to mess with guns, these are the different types of charges that you could face with that, and also the mandated prison time. particularly applicable to federal prosecution because even a felon in possession is charged federally, has a mandatory period of 3 years imprisonment. And there's no parole in the federal sentencing protocol. And unfortunately, there's no federal prisons in Ohio as well that hold gun violators federally. Which means what for these young men? If they're even caught with a previous felony conviction, with either a weapon or a bullet or a magazine, the best deal they're going to get federally is 3 years if they're prosecuted federally, and they're going to be serving it probably somewhere very far from home. Nobody wants to do it, but again, it's our public duty to protect the rest of us. But we just don't stop there. We also bring in fact, volunteers from your local emergency services to show some very graphic slides of the people that don't die, but they can't ever get fixed completely. I mean, colostomy bags, maiming wounds, disfigurement, scarring, amputations. This is something that runs hand in hand. You don't see it in the TVs and the movies and the video games, but the stuff that we show them is unretouched, not CGI, not Photoshop. It's the real stuff. But we leave the best for last, and that is this. We're here to support them. In fact, I'm going to show you something here. I brought this. We give every one of these young people we speak to, whether adult or juvenile, a little card here that we made with a phone number on here, 419 area code. In fact, it comes right back here in Lima. And there are people that are hired actually by contract with the Attorney General's office in Lima's Coleman Behavioral. They carry around this cell phone we've obtained for them to answer that 24/7. And if any of those young men or their friends and their family anytime need any type of assistance, whether it's in job training, just getting out of Dodge for a while, housing, we'll do our best to find it for them. We encourage this. We do this and explain to them that they have priority, and it's not going to cost them or their family a cent. All they got to do is reach out. And finally, as you can see, we have clergy come in here to explain why the community needs them and why they believe in them. Again, we've seen some bad stuff from the people we've talked to, but you know, we've also seen some good stuff here. And I'm going to close on this. When we had our first juvenile intervention, about 1.5 years ago now, almost 2 years ago, shortly thereafter, I get a call from our contact at Coleman. And she explains that there was a young man who attended that session that after hearing our pitch, re-enrolled in Lima High School, Lima Senior. In fact, he was playing football, not this school year, but the previous school year. And he had essentially been homeless since he was 11. His mother had some addiction problems. He's been sleeping on teammates' couches since he came back to school. Can we do anything for him? And boy, that was a curveball for me because I didn't know what to do. But you know, your community has a lot of resources out there. We literally paid for an apartment over here at the Kerwin House for him. And he was able to finish high school, walk the line, played football that year. And, you know, I tried to keep in touch with him, but you know why? I learned about 4 months ago, he was on the basketball team in OSU Lima and getting through school. So I don't know about you. Obviously, we wouldn't stop the gun violence, but when I see a young man like this, pulling, you know, we had a lot of other fine young men in here earlier. But even those ones that are really disadvantaged, maybe don't have the constant interaction, mentorship from somebody like Coach Quincy, taking some advantage of this. This is what makes my day, keeps me coming back. So I'm going to leave you a bunch of my cards here. I answer phones and return emails. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to call me and contact me. Any comments, any criticisms as well. You know, the other thing too is I invite any of you or any citizens to come to any of our group interventions. I think you'll be uplifted. I know Mayor Berger's attended our interventions before, and well, Mayor, you can explain yourself how you felt.
Mr. President. Well, first of all, I want to personally thank Bob for his passion in pursuing this initiative. I'm not sure that I've ever met a state employee that's on the mission that Bob is on. I mean, this is not an exaggeration when I characterize him as being absolutely committed to saving lives in our community and in communities around the state. And I can also tell you that the experience of being in one of these interventions is terrifically emotional and powerful. This is about informing these fellows about the consequences of their actions, but most importantly, it's trying to break through to tell them that there are options. This isn't just about slamming the door on folks. This is about being real about what they can do for themselves if they choose to do that. And so when the chief and I talked about Bob being here, I thought it was really important as we go into this summer that we make certain that the community is aware that there are opportunities here and that families need to intervene with their kids and then connect with these resources. Bob, I thank you for coming here tonight. Your work is really important to communities and to families around this entire state. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, Council, for the opportunity. If you have any questions now, you're welcome, but again, I'll leave my contact information.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Thank you. Ms. Adams?
I just wanted to comment that I too had attended a couple of these sessions. And I think, one, I was notified by our chief because of being chairman of safety services at the time, and I went there. The first one was that I attended was at the courthouse. The second one was at juvenile center, juvenile court. And I encourage all counselors, if you're made aware of a session, please, if you can with your schedules, attend. It's very powerful to see these young people sitting there, hearing from these different agencies, leaders, pastors. They make it real, and especially all of them, but the surgeon. The pictures that he shows, the tools that he has to use, takes it from a video game to reality. And I think the kids realize, wow, the news says you'll recover, it wasn't life-threatening, but the damage that was done internally and what you're left with isn't always explained. And this surgeon does that. The pastors were very insightful, touched a lot of lives. Not just are the juveniles brought in, the young people, but their parents are, or their guardians. And all this is laid out in front of them as well, for what lies ahead for their children. As I said, I've attended two. I wasn't aware of this last one in January. I'm sorry that I missed it. But Major, if you could, please include all of council at the next one, an invitation. I think it would be greatly appreciative, going forward. Thank you, sir, for caring enough to start a program like this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. Lowe?
Okay.
Mr. Ball, if you would, please. Got a couple questions for you. Taking the mayor for his word, I respect your mission and I respect your heart. I got one question before I go any further. These kids that you're speaking to, where are they coming from? How do you get them to the meeting? Yes.
The juveniles are selected by the juvenile court and the juvenile probation officer.
Okay. And that's what I was thinking. I want to say this to you, sir. There's a serious problem in our city. Okay? And a lot of individuals don't like it when I say this. It starts at home, but we have a system, that doesn't even allow fathers to be fathers, to show these young men how to be young men. And I wish there was a way or a program where you could reach out to these dads The system has taken dads out of homes. I've seen individuals lose housing because they had the father in the house actually watching his own child, okay? There's more. These individuals that's already in the system or that's contained or may possibly contain is bigger than that. It's bigger than that. The one thing that I've noticed is we have a lot of young men, and I'm just gonna say it as it is, we have a lot of black men, okay? Young black boys in our community who are fatherless. So when you stand in front of them in your two-piece suit and a skin complexion that they can't relate to, you have nothing coming. We have men in this city, and I'm not gonna call them out by name, but they know who they are, I know who they are, have been doing some diligent work and been working, pulling in, talking to these kids, going into them. This whole incident that we just had recently, where they're meeting and they're bringing these boys together and saying, why this and why that? You're right, we're not gonna save every one of them. But we have individuals in this city, when they do step up, they're not allowed to step up because of positions or what someone may think, okay? But they know these kids' family. I can say, name 5 black families in this city right now that you're having an issue with, and I doubt if you can tell me. The main ones, okay? What I have seen personally, they're not gonna listen to you. They need to have somebody, we need to go back to Mr. DeWine and say, can you get somebody that looks like me? I'm not taking nothing away from you. Your heart and your passion, it shows when you spoke. But can you get somebody that looks like me to stand in front of these kids and talk to them? Okay? And it's not just a black thing, but in Lima, Ohio, it is a black thing. Okay? These meetings right here, you hold them in the middle of the day when those that are responsible parents can't get there because they're at work. We need some after 5, after 6 o'clock classes. This right here is hogwash to the young brother in the street that got to pack a gun because he don't know where mom and daddy's at, or dad's locked up, and mom's drug abuse like what you said this other young man was going through. We need more in this city. We've had blinders on for so long. I appreciate you being here, but it's more than this. It's more than this. There's 2 names on here I wouldn't trust with nothing. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Okay? There is a picture, and it's not just Lima's fault, because this is a national situation here. But the media has made it look like we can't even walk down our local streets because Lima's that bad. And it's not. But individuals are not speaking out. They're not talking to these young men and girls. We need to do something. But this meeting right here, I'm sorry. I have sat in so many meetings. They weren't effective. It's going one-on-one with an individual and talking to them and saying what's really truly going on and finding out what's in here. And not this hardcore persona that they have to put on or packing guns. Where's the guns coming from? It's not just drugs. Some of these kids are carrying these weapons for protection. Not selling nothing. Not bad kids at all. Just don't know what the next turn's gonna be. Okay? So meetings during the day, that ain't helping diddly squat. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm telling you what they tell me. For you don't know, I'm a cosmetologist. I deal with kids constantly, every day, all day long. And this ain't the situations that they're dealing with. We need somebody that looks like us to come down from the state. Please take this message back that Councilman Lowe said this. And we need to get in here and call a meeting. We've had meetings. We talk to kids. It helps so much. But until we start letting fathers do their jobs, or fathers start doing their jobs, we have a system that blocks them from doing their jobs. Okay? It's not going to change. It's not going to change. We need more help. I'm going to call you, and I'm going to go a little bit more because I don't want it to look like I'm down in your program. I'm not down in your program. I'm just telling you, you need just a little more help. And there's some individuals in this city that's doing great things that definitely isn't on this sheet that you really need to be in contact with.
Very good. I'm counting on it.
Okay? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
Mr. President, I just had a couple of things. Well, I was going to say, the program is great. If you can you got to tweak it a little bit, got a couple things to do, because we were sitting around thinking about putting together Scare Straight. You remember Scare Straight program? I'm out of the prison system, 30 years in the system. We used to bring kids in there. But Judge Kenilworth stopped it when the young lady got killed there, so they can see on the hands what you see. But, we're sitting around talking about that, can we bring that back? And I really appreciate, I didn't know anything about this. And it's kind of like, certain people get it, certain people don't get it. I never knew anything. I just got excited to look at it. Oh, they got something like this, because this is something I've been talking about it, because we have a lot of gun violence. And I didn't know anything about it. But please put me on your list, and so all city council can get it, not individual city council, because I don't think a title mean anything when you're having these problems, when you're trying to solve problems, But a couple things there, tweet it a little bit, because you got to have people there in the evening time. We need to have a B plan for the evening time. If you need me there, I can be there, anybody can be there, because we do need this. You're all on the road, and the wine is on a good roll on this, because we got to stop it. And you guys are putting some places in place to get it done. And so it can help us out. I will be calling you and letting you know, give you some names and stuff, and see what we can do, because you're on the right road. It's gonna take a little time to get it to show anything though, but hey, somebody's stepping up, and I'm glad you're stepping up. I appreciate you stepping up doing this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Anything else?
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say you're doing a good job here. I appreciate the effort. We have to start someplace. Will we tweet later on? Yes, we will. And so I appreciate your passion, because I can feel it in you, that you truly have a concern for these young people here.
Right.
There's a saying that they don't care what you know until they know that you care. And this is the first stop here. But I will echo one thing that Jesse says. In our community, we have a strange community in the black community. It's important that the people that are advocating for these individuals, that they know the community. You need people that know families. You have people that have lived in Lima all their life, and they know the grandma, they know the mom, they know the dad, they know the grandkids. You need people serving on this initiative that know the community.
Right.
Nothing against people who come in.
Right.
It's important. It's just important for those individuals that are in this setting here to be able to look in that courtroom and be able to see individuals that they've seen before, that they know. So if anything that you may want to tweak on this here is just to make sure you have individuals that are serving in here, that they are from the Lima community and they know families that have been in Lima for generations.
I'm counting on the three of you to help me
I
achieve
will.
that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay,
You're doing a
thank
great
you.
job. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good job. Good job.
Next on the agenda is Resolution 516.
A resolution supporting the City of Lima Complete Streets policy.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move that Resolution 516 be adopted on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to adopt Resolution 516 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
And Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Resolution 516 has been adopted on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 9616.
Levying special assessments for property maintenance code charges on premises in the City of Lima, Ohio.
Mr. President,
Ms. Crayer?
I move that ordinance 9616 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 9616 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 9616 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 9716.
Amending the 2016 annual budget.
Mr. President,
Ms. Adams?
I move that ordinance number 97-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 9716 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 9716 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 9816.
Providing for the issuance and sale of $114,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the property owner's portion in anticipation of the levy and collection of special assessments of the cost of constructing sidewalks at various locations in the city, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, in the manner provided in Resolution 715 and Ordinance 5316.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move to approve the fiscal officer certificate.
Second.
Motion second is to receive and approve the fiscal officer certificate. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lowe?
could someone tell me, has any of this work already started previous to us voting? Okay, never mind.
Can you hold that question until we get to the actual ordinance motion?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to receive and approve the fiscal officer certificate. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move to pass ordinance 9816 on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 9816 on its first reading. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lowe?
has any of this work already started to occur?
Mr. Elstrom?
No.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes?
Mr. Lowe?
Yes?
Ms. Crayer?
Yes?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 9816 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 9916.
Authorizing the purchase of equipment for the Lima Police Department to be paid from the Safety Services Support Fund.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles?
I move that ordinance number 9916 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 9916 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 9916 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 116.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with R.D. Jones Excavating.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move that ordinance 116 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 116 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes?
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Ms. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 116 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 10116.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with United Survey, Inc.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move that ordinance 10116 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 10116 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 10116 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 10216.
Amending ordinance 14913.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gordon?
I move that ordinance 10216 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 10216 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
And Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 10216 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 10316.
Authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and administer funds from the National Institute of Justice Paul Coverdell Grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles?
I move that ordinance number 103-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion and the second is to pass ordinance 10316 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes?
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
And Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 103-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 104-16.
Authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and administer funds from the Ohio Office of Attorney General for the Drug Use Prevention 2016-2017 grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 104-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion, the second, is to pass ordinance 104-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 104-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 105-16.
Authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and administer funds from the Ohio Department of Public Safety 2017 Select Traffic Enforcement Program grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 105-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion, the second, is to pass ordinance 105-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 105-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 106-16.
Authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and administer funds from the Ohio Department of Public Safety FFY 2017 Impaired Driving Enforcement Grant.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 106-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion, the second, is to pass ordinance 106-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 106-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Ordinance 107-16.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental cooperative mutual aid agreement with the city of Cleveland, Ohio, and the Cleveland Police Department.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Miles.
I move that ordinance number 107-16 be passed on its first reading.
Second.
The motion, the second, is to pass ordinance 107-16 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? We'll have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
And Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ordinance 107-16 has been passed on its first reading by an 8-0 vote. Next is miscellaneous business. Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one item tonight from me. I want to remind everyone that on this weekend, May 7th, on Saturday, between the hours of 9 and 12, there will be a dumpster at the St. Mark's Church by the Northside Neighborhood Association. Will be sponsoring that, and that's at 1011 North Metcalf Street. So clean out your garages, pick up your stuff. Don't bring batteries, don't bring appliances, don't bring your couch, bring everything else. And if you've got tires, you can take up to 10 to the service building and drop them off there with proof of being a citizen of the Lima. So gather your stuff, clean up your yards, clean up your neighbor's yards, bring it, and dump it. Because it's time. This whole month, we'll have dumpsters throughout the city. You'll see ads in the paper, and if you don't know where they're at, call me. I'll be happy to tell you, but I can tell you Northside's got theirs set up at St. Mark's Church, and the hours are between 9 and 12. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. Lowe.
Thank you. One thing, I'd like to make a motion to put the issue of height requirements according to 828.17 with the zoning code and community development committee.
Second.
What was that section again, please, Jesse?
It's 828.17.
Okay, thank you.
The motion, the second, is to refer the issue of fence heights as specified in codified ordinances, section 828.17, to the
Community development.
the Committee for Community Development. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries.
That's it, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lowe. Ms. Crayer.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few things tonight. I'd also like to echo what Sam had stated about the neighborhood cleanup. There will be 2 more. There will be one at the Litter City Council, as well as on Spring Street at LACNIP. Same time, same rules apply. I really do encourage you to get things together. If you don't have anything, ask your neighbors. It's only a couple hours. People will be there to help you unload those treasures from your car and give them to the dumpster. So you won't be doing it alone. You do need to bring them to us, but otherwise we will get those unloaded for you. Also, I'd like to congratulate this week the Young Entrepreneurs Academy from the Lima Chamber will be graduating. I have one student who is near and dear to my heart, so let's start by congratulating all of them. They were grades 6 to 12. They spent a lot of time developing a product, understanding mentorship, presenting and a very an adult style to get some dollars for their product. And it was it's been quite an exciting adventure to watch. The youngest student accepted was not in the 6th grade, she's in the 5th grade, and she's 11. And she is such an overachiever, a go-getter, an entrepreneur at heart. She is making bows and ribbons for hair. If any of you need some of these or like to buy them, I can hustle her along. But Jasmine Scott is her name, and she has a heart of gold, and she really understands what it takes to be a leader in the community. So I want to congratulate her, as she is the youngest member of that academy and not even old enough to be there, but she is. So the last thing is Fire Ops Training 101. I can't believe I get to talk about this. Chief, this was an excellent program. I know you put a lot of thought into it. A lot of work. I think that there were, I would say, 3 to 4 firefighters per one participant. There was no way at all we could have been hurt. At one point in time, myself and my teammate, we were in the room. It was 230 degrees to start. It just kept cooking and kept cooking. I thought, dear God, please get this over with. I am dying. But it was a great experience. It really did set some value more to what our firefighters do every day. We were able to saw open windshields and tear apart car doors, search and rescue. So it was quite an adventure. If you ever have the opportunity to do it, I highly suggest it. I had a lady tell me she was too chicken to do it, and I thought, man, you're gonna sweat your makeup off, but why not? Why miss an opportunity like this? So that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call a finance meeting for May 9th at 5:30 in these chambers. The issue that's already in committee we will discuss is the starting salaries of the administration and elected officials. Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Glenn.
Yeah, I got a couple things there. And, like Sam say, we will be going around. I call this whole month. We can be at every one of these places, need to get some stuff dumped. We got a guy going around dumping tires. And I hope people be on the lookout for him. Please call the police department if you see him. We got a big mess we got to clean up now that he left there on Nova in Maine. And over 25 tires. So we're going to take on that responsibility and take care of them. But we need people to make the phone call. I want to congratulate Mr. Lowell for getting the award there. And that was last weekend. And he didn't get to make it. They gave him an award for drug spraying death. And I appreciate the young guys put that project together. It was outstanding. And Irish Pub donated the food. Thank you guys for donating the food there. They said you guys did the donation. And it was great. It's great that a lot of folks came out. And when Robert was talking about tonight, they was talking about how they're going to stop the gun violence and everything. And I'm glad he came tonight so I can give him some good ideas there. And I know Ms. Miles going to give out some good ideas for that. But more important, that I appreciate the folks that came out when the shooting came over on State Street. And yes, I went out and knocked on doors to find out who did it, because we're tired of that. We're not going to continue allowing that to happen. And I'm glad the kids stepped up. Thank you. Thank you very much. that you guys want to take your neighborhood back. You're not going to allow it this summer. We're not. We're all going to stick together and continue to allow the shooting in our area, in our city. So we got to step up. And the kids stepped up on that, and I appreciate that. Also, Vicky down in Miss Paul, she's going to be doing a lot of work down there. We're going to try to do some painting and cleaning up there and get a couple things ready for the after-school program. Also, we're going to try to help people out that want the kids in the summer program. We're going to try to bring some of these, trying to find some finances and have people sponsor your kid go to our summer program. I know a lot of parents have been calling me saying they couldn't afford it, but it's not that bad. But we're still trying to help out. But you got 3 or 4 kids who want to get in the program. But if they do a good job on that in the summer program, they have a lot of opportunity for the kids to go different field trips. So we will be trying to work on that. Also, I know I've been getting a lot of calls for people calling about roofing, and they got, code enforcement wrote them up about the back porch, and different things. But we are trying to work on some things there. We're gonna look for donation. The city cannot. Amy gave me some good ideas today in our community development meeting. I'm gonna use some of them assets she gave me and give them some calls so we can see can we help some of our senior citizens out with some of the things they have and some problems they have with their porch and why they got cited for from code enforcement. So we're gonna try to work on some of the things there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Mrs. Miles?
Thank you. I would like to call a meeting, committee meeting for the Safety Service Committee to discuss law enforcement methods. Again, this item has been in committee, and we will be meeting Monday, May the 9th at 6:15 p.m.
Second.
Anything further, Mrs. Miles?
And secondly, I just want to offer my condolences to the young man, the gentleman that risked his life to save that young kid
Yes.
that was in the water here. I mean, it's such an unfortunate situation with him risking his life here, trying to save him. I mean, I'm sure it was difficult for him, as a passerby, to just watch that young kid try to save himself here. I mean, he went in, and my condolences is to his family. And they are having fundraising for his burial expenses, so if anyone is able to contribute to it, again, our condolences go to his family.
Thank you, Mrs. Miles. Mr. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing I want to say is wow on the kids from Lima Senior with all those kids that were on the honor roll. Man, that's awesome.
great.
We really
Awesome,
need to
man.
recognize that. That's really important. And I'm proud of them. And the only other thing that I have is the fire ops training. Man, I'm telling you what, I got to say this. And nothing against you guys, but that is the most fun that I've had since I've been on city council. And, yeah. Hey, the gas mask was a little rough on me. But,
Yeah.
but I do want to say this, though. One thing, I watch people a lot. And the guys that are in your department, Chief, are so close. There is such a brotherhood there. I watch them guys, and man, I tell you, they're one family. They are one family. They don't even know I'm watching them, and I've never seen nothing like it. I like to get more of that with my football team. I'm working on that right now.
All right, Woody.
But in honor of them, I told my wife I'd do this, and she said that I wouldn't.
I thought you weren't going to do it.
But in honor of them, and the whole fire department, I'm gonna put my fire hat on. And just tell you, I did
That right
appreciate
there
it.
is something we'll never get out of our heads.
Lose a lot of sleep over that.
And other than that, the last thing I have is to remind people to be good to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. We do have a need for an executive session. I'll entertain that motion.
Second.
I'll entertain the motion.
Mr. President, we
Mr.
have
McLean.
a need for an executive session for real estate.
Yes. The motion, the second, is to adjourn into executive session for the purposes of discussing real estate. We'll have the Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Ms. Crayer?
Yes.
Can't go to Cupid.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Nixon?
Yes.
And Mr. Gordon.
Yes.
Thank you,
Motion
Haley.
to adjourn into executive session has passed. We will meet in
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Come on. Fingers I hate.